If you have wrist pain, the chances are you've been told that you need a brace. But what if I told you that you actually don't need one and it can make your problem worse? I'm a physical therapist who has specialized in treating wrist and hand injuries for the past decade. From programmers, software engineers, and other desk workers to even professional gamers and more. I've been featured on ESPN, Washington Post, published research, publishing a textbook right now, and have helped over 2,500 plus individuals fix their wrist pain. And guess what? We were able to do it without resting, medication, surgery, and most importantly, without using a brace. Bracing and resting your wrists and hands, like many doctors recommend, will not help provide long-term relief for your wrist pain. Why? Because it does nothing to actually address the cause of your pain. Think about it like this. You have a gas detector at your house, and one night the alarm rings extremely loudly and wakes you up and you can't seem to figure out how to turn it off. So you just take out the battery or pull out the cables attached to the detector. You've solved the problem of the loud alarm, but you failed to address any potential gas leak or problem that caused the alarm to go off in the first place. This is what a brace does for your wrist pain. It's a solution that's targeted only towards the source, muscle, tendon, or nerve, but it does nothing to actually address the underlying problem. And the underlying problem being poor endurance of the muscles and tendons you're using most frequently for your wrist and hand. Most wrist pain from office work affects the tendons of the wrist and hand. And there are quite a few tendons and muscles surrounding the wrist and hand, each responsible for the movements that we perform when we're working, typing, clicking, or moving the mouse. And based on what actions or tasks we're performing on a regular basis, stress can build up on those muscles and tendons. So if we feel it on the palm side of the wrist and hand, it's likely affecting those tendons, and vice versa. Top side of the hand, the extensor sided tendons. And if you've been looking for a recovery plan that helps you determine the right exercises to perform based on where you're feeling it, whether it be at the palm side, the top side of the hand, the pinky side of the wrist, or any of these regions, we've created an app that provides you a personalized program based on your level of conditioning. You can grab it right below. Tendons and their cells have only so much they can handle, a limited capacity, like a cup that can hold only so much water. When the stress, the water is too much for the cup, it's gonna overflow. This is when your tissues or the tendons become irritated and you experience pain. And over many years of physical inactivity and a more sedentary lifestyle, our cup can get smaller, so won't able to hold as much water. But if we exercise regularly and focus on endurance, we can build up the size of our cup and hold gallons of water. What is really unfortunate is that the advice of using a brace is so entrenched in not only our healthcare systems, primarily with boomer doctors, but also with resources online. Google, Reddit, YouTube, these are all the older models of how we treat wrist and hand issues. We now know that when we rest our tendons, they actually become more weak. The muscle tendon strength drops, the tendon loses its structure, the kinetic chain deteriorates, and our signaling from our brain to our muscles reduce. So while immobilizing our wrists can be helpful to limit any stress whatsoever on the tendons, it's counterproductive and is the reason why many times when we reintroduce our activity, desk work, typing, guitar, playing music, drawing, the pain will come back more quickly because we've done nothing to change our endurance. So to actually get some long-term relief, we have to identify what muscles and tendons are involved based on what activity we're doing. And then we can build up the endurance of those tissues. But at the same time, we are modifying, not completely resting from activity. We'll play less, type less, since we're gonna be focused on building tissue capacity. We don't want to expose our tendons and muscles to too much stress. And what's important to recognize is that it takes roughly 4 to 6 weeks for tissues to adapt, and over that time we can gradually increase what we are doing in response to how much endurance we have. And this is what will allow you to get back to programming, desk work, typing, clicking without any pain. What I'm not saying here is that the brace is completely useless, but that there are limited situations in which we can use it. In most cases, we recommend the use of a brace at night to avoid being placed in positions of too much wrist bend or wrist flexion. The brace can also be utilized when the pain or injury is a little bit more acute, so the first 1 to 3 days. But outside of that, we don't typically utilize it during the day or with activity. But remember, the main focus is to build endurance. You have to start by understanding what your current level of endurance is and build from there. And if you want to try some exercises, check out our routine playlist right over here, or some of the other resources we posted in our other channel.